Welcome to Men Pushing 60, the podcast. We are a community of men born in the 1960s and 70s. Whether you're approaching 60 or you are already there, this show is for you. Here we talk about where we've been, what we're doing now, and what we're building for the years ahead. The wins, the lessons, the challenges, and the opportunities. We bring honesty, purpose, and humor to every conversation. Whatever version of 60 you are pushing, you belong here. We're glad you're with us. Welcome.
So tonight we're going to talk about the things we did growing up and that would quite possibly never happen again. Yes, we drank from the hose. Everybody did that. But, looking back at how we grew up versus what I see today and kind of this digital tether that is attached to every child. I can't imagine what it's like today. Everybody knowing we are 24/7, right? When we were out in the wild, right, as a feral unattended minors, we learned by making mistakes. This is what we did, right? We were responsible for ourselves, but I think part of us, we were responsible for the pack too. There was this unity, right? Everybody kind of, when the bike ramp got too high and somebody wiped out, you're like, no, that's not a good idea. We gotta go see how he is. And then you fixed it so it didn't happen to the next person, right? Sometimes you might have set somebody up for a little hijinks, but for the most part, I think when we were out and we were riding our bike in a pack or whatever we did, we were looking out for each other and we made a shit ton of mistakes, right? That's what we did, right? These things, and a lot of this stuff happened organically. We just went out. There was no texting. You went to the park, you brought a basketball, baseball, football, you got on your bike, you somehow knocked on your neighbor's door or called for them or whatever it was. And you all ended up together and you just began, right? I think that's how we all did our stuff. We're going to talk about that. We're also talking about some stuff like in school and a few other things, exponentially different than what was going on today. We talk about this stuff amongst ourselves and we just laugh. So I'm not going to get too far into this in this little intro. And as I usually say, let's jump right in. What do you got? Who wants to go?
So I'll mention something I just thought of when you were talking. We weren't entertained. We had to entertain ourselves. Like if we said we were bored, our parents would say, "Get outside."
I think that was the solution to everything. Go outside.
Go outside, and you're gonna do something. Even if you get into mischief, just get outside and go do something.
Yeah,
learn. Skin your knee, and then you're like, "I won't do that again."
I'm sorry. Or you wind up with a list of chores. Like I had to wash the trash barrels. Like that actually needed to be done. No, it was just something to like make me miserable so that I would stop pestering my mom about, hey, I'm bored. So that never happened again. You only did it once and then you're like, crap, I don't want work. I wanted to,
you got nothing to
self-soothe.
Yeah, you got nothing to do? I'll find you something to do.
Yeah. And then the other thing about
that must come under the category of, if you don't stop crying, I will give you something. Like you'd wipe out, you'd cry. If you want something to cry about, I will give you something to cry about. And that was usually followed by a whack with whatever weapon was nearby.
And talking about wiping out, when we went back to school after the summer, I said this today to Carlo, we looked like an emergency room. There was kids in casts from arms to legs, black eyes, like we were beaten. We were out there just doing stuff. These kids don't do anything. They will never get injured. They get injured if they, drop their iPad on their foot. That's about it.
I think there's a lot to be said for imagination. Like when we were kids, we all just said it, like, I'm bored. Your parents would make you wash the garbage cans or you'd never say it again. But they encourage you to just leave the house, come back when it gets dark out. I don't want to they probably didn't ask how were we fed? What were we doing? But you filled that time. You had to come up with things to do. It was probably self-limiting. Like Carlos said, you'd make a jump a certain height, but you also had to use your imagination and problem solving. And I wonder if some of those things are unique to our generation. Do the kids that have access to all of the media and the digital things that they have at their disposal, do they not have as much imagination because it's coming at you? You don't have to think up anything. It's just coming at you in your algorithm, and you don't have to problem solve because you can just ask the Google or ask ChatGPT. Like we had to figure it all out. How do I make something out of these 3 bent nails? I've got a 2x4, a delaminating piece of plywood, and I want to make a treehouse. How do I do it? You'd have to figure it out.
Trial and error.
Yeah. There you go.
There were so many partially built forts in our existence. It always ended up being like
poorly built.
Poorly built, partially built forts.
That
it was
go-karts.
a lean-to of the go-karts. go-karts with shopping carts and go-karts. We always had these dreams of making anything that could transport us, but a lot of times it
never did. Transported us to the emergency room most often, but
it's just a dream.
There's something else there too, like the sort of you said it, Carl, the group. The group think like you were en masse and everybody sort of watched out for each other or whatever. But I think you didn't go out with like, here's what we're doing today. You just all sort of met up and then you figured. And so you had to negotiate a little bit with your group and say, oh, you guys want to do this? And then there'd be, if there's 5 guys or whatever it is, 2 of them say yes and 3 say no, then you have to try to, what do you want to do? And then you said there was negotiating skills, there was, there was problem solving skills, there was, Mark, you said the creativity, had to come up with something out of nothing, just creating some fun from nothing. And the combination of those things are skills that, I don't know, it's hard to replicate that without the environment that we were all in that generated all those things. Like, how do you manufacture that with kids today who don't have to be, they just don't have those issues to solve for? So it's very different. I think it was a unique time. Now, I'm not saying we were the first generation that had to do that, but we might have been the last,
100%.
Yeah, they say,
Yep.
They say that the American Most Wanted, I think, what was that guy who hosted that for a long time? His son Walsh. They said when his son was kidnapped and murdered, from that point on, parents were like booking like the play dates were like you're gonna go play at this person's house. I'm gonna pick you up. Like it completely changed. We used to be able to just go wherever we were going, and parents didn't even know. But they say like that was like a point in time where it changed for parents. Like they say, we have to know where our kids are. We have to plan for what they're doing.
I don't think our parents ever said, here's what you should go outside and here's what you should do. No, it was just go figure it out. We just figured it out.
And I think it was also an unwritten rule that wherever you were, somebody's mother was going to feed you. If the kids came to your house, your mother was going to feed. If you went to the neighbor's house, they were going to feed you. And if you didn't wind up at anybody's house, then your choices were to try to, you forage or you 5-finger a candy bar from the local store or something, just so you're not starving.
And so let's go down that road of like, what did we do? Like we made up games and we did things that were, our parents didn't know. And we talked a little bit about this earlier. Like if you had a ball of some type, it was a football, a game happened.
That's all you needed. Yeah.
Right. And if you only had 3 people, you played with 3 people. If you had whatever, we played a game with a football, we called it muckle. It was basically you just killed the person who had the ball and you tried to get away from everybody else. And then inevitably somebody ended up crying, bleeding or something and the game ended, right? It was just, you just made up stuff. I mean, I don't know what you guys did, but that's what we did. We just went there and said, "Hey, what are we doing today?" And
muckle happened organically. Yeah, sorry.
Muckle. Yeah.
Run the bases on the street. We used to play that. Like, and you could get some out by hitting them with the baseball. That's how we played it.
In the head.
Oh yeah, beaning.
I think after our generation, the hitting people with objects has stopped. Right? We can go down this.
That might be a good thing.
The kickball, dodgeball.
Yeah.
Investigate those 2 sports right away. Just throwing it as hard as you can to get them out. It was crazy. And it just happened. Then teachers let them happen. I mean, this wasn't us playing on our own. We're talking about in school, which is a little different.
Right.
But on our own.
Structured.
We took that one step.
Well, it's also eat or be eaten. You had to, you've seen all the movies where the first day of prison, you got to beat up the biggest kid. Like if you were, you had to stake your territory and prove that you weren't one of the kids that was just going to get picked on. Otherwise, you were going to get murdered with a dodgeball every time you showed up at dodgeball. I mean, you had to stake your claim.
The other thing we did too, and I said this to Mark, we played with the dodgeball. Kids would just run back and forth in front of the wall, and there'd be people standing there trying to gun them. And like, we'd do that for hours. Like, I don't know what it was called, even if it was anything, but it was just like, all right, I'll be a target. I'll run back and forth in front of the wall, and you can try to hit me with that red, whatever that ball was. It's just the sound of that ball,
That red rubber ball that stung like hell when you got hit with it. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, it had the kind of the ribbing on it.
Yeah.
Maybe the end of Dodgeball was when they made a movie out of it. Like, that's where we know that game was officially retired. But yeah, I mean, we all played Dodgeball, right? That would be your indoor recess game, that game that Brian's talking about, running along the wall. So you'd either be the nimble, could stop and start, like fast twitch muscle fibers along the wall, but then Carlo, and I don't know, Kevin, you may get this one too, is the wall was an important part. I remember being in elementary school and you would line up baseball cards. Like you'd each put up 5 cards, two guys, and whoever knocked down the last card, it was like maybe early versions of gambling. You'd get all those cards. Mm-hmm. So you'd either, go home with no baseball cards, or you'd have 2 packs of them that, the next day everybody wanted to come after the cards that you had won.
We had a lot of freedom. I mean, if we think about like when we were kids, we can go down the bike route now, and when we talked about like we just left. Like they had no clue where we were. Our parents had 0 clue where we were, what we were doing. I mean, you tell kids this and they're like, like they're exaggerating. No, it was probably worse than what we're saying.
Yeah.
Right? They had no clue where we were, what we did, where the hell we were. You're just gone for hours without a water bottle.
Right. No, I say no way for them to know. They couldn't get a hold of you. It's not like they could track you with the iPhone or Life 360 or any of that crap. They just had no idea. You left the house at 8:00 in the morning, came home before the streetlights came on. They hoped you there was no sunblock, and we were talking about this. Like you didn't put on sunblock and take your water bottle with you before you left the house. I mean, come on, you were feral. Like you just had no adult supervision for the majority of your formative years, and it didn't seem weird to you, did it, at the time? Like that's just the way it was. It sounds insane because you would never do that with your kids now, but that's just the norm that it was. And we drank the hose water because you wouldn't want to go in the house and talk to parents. And even if you could, why would you? Like, what's wrong with the nice warm hose water on a hot day?
They'll make you do something if they see you.
Exactly.
You were stoked if you found like the water fountain at the park. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
Like they had those random water
fountains.
Everybody knows that taste of the hose water and the random metal, whatever it was at the water fountain. But we drank it.
It's like you're swallowing pennies.
And
not clean pennies, by the way. Dirty ones.
I think in that hose water TikTok too, the woman mentions the fact that there was something on TV at 10 o'clock at night that basically said, "It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?"
And that was real.
Just to remind them that they had children.
Yeah. And in the summer, we just went outside again. So we went outside in the day, in the morning, whatever. The parents kicked you out. And then you kind of did whatever. You ate dinner at 5 when your dad or whoever came home, or whatever time was scheduled in your house. And then you repeated it at night again. And there was all the kids in the neighborhood, and you ran around. And again, you never knew who was going to be there. Sometimes you might have called, but I don't think we ever called anybody. We just went outside. No.
Right.
Just look for people. Listen to the noise.
Did anybody else just yell outside somebody's house?
Oh, yeah.
Like if you were going to go over like to Carlo's house, I just go over, stand in his front yard, and just go, Carlo!
Right.
That was the telephone. You just scream. Yeah, you just scream their name, and if they weren't home, the parents would come out and be like, "He's not here, get out of here." And you'd move on to the next house, and you'd just scream names in the front yard. That was, I guess, before we realized that there was such a thing as a telephone.
But that's also how you got summoned home, too, right? Like my mom would say, yell, "Kevin, get home."
We're talking about some of the stuff while we were golfing about, the stuff we did, like playing with matches, playing with fire, like
fireworks.
Yeah. Is there anybody here who wasn't a pyromaniac in their youth? Did anybody not burn shit down that shouldn't have been burned down?
We burned.
I know I did
all the time. We were.
I don't know what it was.
Something.
Light shit on fire.
It was awesome. It was
great.
You didn't do it. We did it in our own backyard, but we did it other places too. And I just remember my brother and one of his friends burnt down acres once. They came back in a tizzy and went and like hid under their bed or something. Hid under the bed. I'm like, "What do you guys do?" "Nothing." And I'm like, "What's got nothing?" And I like,
I didn't have any eyebrows.
I went back and looked post, whatever damage. I was like, "Wow!" Like, it got a little out of control.
That's all right.
And I remember once, I don't know if it was my brother who it was, we were just messing around with fire in the yard and thought it would be a great idea to put gas in a little Dixie cup and pour that. So when you pour into the fire to make the fire bigger, but when you pour gasoline slowly, right, it actually will burn right straight back up the stream. So the cup caught on fire. Now he throws the cup and this other crap burning in the yard. We just ran around, put it out, and in our neighborhood, everybody could see what we were doing. I mean, the houses were 30 feet away. It was rooftop to rooftop, but no parents came out, no nothing. We just put it out.
Well, how are you supposed to know that the fire will climb up the stream to the cup unless you try it once and learn the hard way that that's exactly how that's going to happen?
Again, experiential learning. That's how we learn.
That's it.
And it wasn't just the kid, the one that did it, that learned. We all learned
Yeah.
from that.
Whoops.
Whoops. Whoops
I
is
don't want
right.
to do what he just did. What a dummy.
I remember someone handed me an aerosol can that had been in a fire with no gloves on.
Sure. What could possibly go wrong with that?
Yeah, that was great.
Well, here's the other thing, though. You became like the local legend when that shit got out, and there was no social media, so that story would work its way slowly, and then by the time it got to school or wherever it was, and you were like the hero. I heard you poured a whole can of gasoline on your head and lit yourself on fire. Like, it was such an exaggerated version of it. Yeah.
He fought 10 people.
Yeah.
Actually, he was just wrestling with some kids down the park. We always went to the park, too.
Oh,
One of the things my kids love, too, is the story about being able to smoke in high school. Like, at lunchtime, we could go outside and sit in the quad and smoke cigarettes.
Yep.
And they're like, there's no freaking way you could do that. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely.
I don't know why that seems so foreign to them. I mean, it was just something. I mean, I remember getting a pack of cigarettes at like 12 years old, and, they didn't, the school wasn't going to regulate you. It wasn't like you needed an ID to buy the cigarettes.
Yeah. Right.
Now you need to be whatever age, but then.
Well, I think it's prohibitive now just because it's $18 for a pack of cigarettes at this point?
Yeah, something like that.
We used to take our bikes and ride to the store, and I could tell you all the cigarettes that my parents, their friends smoked. One Mary smoked True Blue, this one smoked Merritts, this one smoked the Marlboros, that one smoked these Tarratins or whatever the hell they were called. Somebody else smoked Virginia's, Pall Malls. I knew everybody. They sent us to the.
Right. Here's a note. My mom was on the Benson and Hedges. Yeah, my mom was on the Benson and Hedges, and Dad was a big fan of the Kent cigarettes. That was the
Kent. Yes.
Kent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember there was kids down the park, and they're like, "You got to try these cigarettes." I don't know how we were barely out of grade school. They're menthol, and they were like Merritts or something.
Delicious.
And they were just like. They're like, you got to try one of these. I remember trying what is that? Like, no, like never smoked. Like, but that's how you yeah.
And there were vending machines. You didn't even have to go into a store. You go to a vending machine and just freaking pull the tab.
There's that.
I wasn't in the cigarette crowd, but weren't there? I don't know about your schools. There were. If you were smoking cigarettes in the quad, at the end of lunch, I think they'd give you 10 minutes. You could hang out in the quad and you could smoke butts before you go back to class. But then there was the crowd that was sitting on the other side of the quad that was like wearing leather jackets, and they weren't smoking. So there was like the burners and the jocks. Like there were, there'd be the different crowds, but that was like the beginning of the delineation. Like if you were smoking butts, you were in with that crowd. And if you weren't, you had to, and then there were also I guess this is like going back to the Breakfast Club. That's two of the bigger groups, but you could be, I don't know, the theater group, or you didn't fit in anywhere. Yeah. But all those crowds would be hanging out in the quad, and that's also how you found your crew or your
tribe.
Your tribe. There you go. Thank you, Kevin. That's the word I was looking for.
I think you're thinking about the movie Grease. But
wasn't it also No, it was a Breakfast Club. You jackwagon.
Jackwagon.
Grease.
Jackhole.
Let's go back a couple of years. Did you guys walk to school?
Mm-hmm.
Every day, both ways, uphill in the snow, blah blah blah.
Yeah. First grade, you used to walk to school and walk back for lunch, and then walk back down to school.
Community schools, no buses,
no school buses.
We walked to school. Yeah, Kevin and I grew up in the same town. Mark and Brian, you guys grew up in the same town. You walked there and back, and then first grade, we walked home for lunch.
And Carlo, I know the answer to this because we talked about it. How old were you in kindergarten?
I was 4 years old.
Yeah,
I was a December baby. I was 4 years and 8 months old when I started kindergarten.
Smart as a whip, I bet. Yeah, to get you in kindergarten early.
Damaged me for years. I was an
practically in utero
wreck of a child. Should have never, ever happened to me, but it did, and that's what it's long gone, long time ago. But yeah, imagine that. 4 years and 8 months old. Not even close to being 5.
How far from your house was your school?
It was a few blocks, and
so my grammar school was about a half a mile. The junior high, middle school was a mile, and the high school was 2 miles. And with no doubt, I lived on the town line for another town, so I couldn't have probably been any further away. And we walked. Didn't matter what the weather was. Didn't matter rain, snow. You never got a ride. You always walked both ways, and that was it. Tell people that now, and they're like, "There's no way that's right." That was it. It's shocking to people that you have a school bus or get a ride from your mommy and daddy and have them drop you off at the, north to pick up, south to drop off at the school.
Held your hand. I mean, there's kids on our street the bus stop is 4 houses away and the parents walk them. and there's 7 kids at the bus stop. I'm like, what is possibly going to happen within?
We all did that stuff with the little, especially when they're little and they're, you just don't know. And I don't know.
Kids like
it's just so
15,
different.
for Christ's sake. No, I'm exaggerating. He's not.
15.
So yeah, walking to school. I mean, that to me is crazy, walking home. But then we spent time. I don't know. I feel like the school was the parks, the schools. We went back there after, right? That's where we hung out. It was these community areas that had everything that you needed. Then you went back there, and that's where everything materialized. All these made up games and things like that.
This must have been the urban versus the rural kids, Brian. We had a field in my neighborhood, and that's where we played kickball, baseball. If you had to fight somebody, that's where the fight was. Like this open lot, which is now has condos on it, but it was just this open lot, had a giant boulder in what would have been like right center field. You always had to have your head on a swivel. Like if you were going after a fly ball and you weren't aware of where that rock was, you could kill yourself. But we didn't go to the school to play where they had all of those apparatus that were designed to inflict pain, the monkey bars, the merry-go-round, the slide that was doubling as a Teflon fry pan. God forbid you were wearing shorts and got hung up halfway down here's the sound effect, halfway down the slide.
The skin remover.
Yes. And then your skin would probably blister because it was so hot. If you got stuck there, you'd probably hear the sizzle. Now everything is, plastic, and they've got, bark mulch underneath the 3 foot tall. What seesaws? Like, think about the stuff, the toys. Well, not their toys. I guess the activities that we had. None of that stuff is around anymore.
The stupid horses on the springs that would launch you if you let go.
Yeah.
Do you ever, the lure, remember the story, the lure of somebody, they went on the swings and they went over the bar. I'm like, they went over the bar. I'm like, no, they didn't. It's impossible. You had to be going like 80 miles an hour. Like, whatever it was went over the bar. I'm like, no, but we used to see how high you could get and then jump off.
I went over the bar.
Yeah, and jump off. I remember jumping off.
It's like, I went over the bar. I'm like, and those swings were death. That's where all the casts came from, Brian.
Right.
All right. Let's do some questions here. Ready? Ever ride in the back of a pickup truck?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. And this is our parents.
That was legal back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes
and you had your helmet on, right? I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, let's go. That was my next question. Riding a bike, did you ever wear a helmet?
Never owned one.
I think I got bumped by a car once. It was a truck car. I was gonna say it was a car, truck. It didn't matter. I got launched onto a lawn somewhere. Thank the Lord, it didn't end up in the street. And it's just like you got up and dusted yourself off. Yeah. Did anybody go to the emergency room as a child when they got hurt?
Yeah, I had a concussion.
Really? You went?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I don't think it existed. It existed. I feel like we just he got his bell rung.
Right.
Well, it depends what it was. Like there was, if there was enough blood, you went to the, I think I cut my fingers or, I had I got some sort of sledding down some crazy hill, and I went and rammed into a fence, and a piece of the wooden fence, like a giant splinter, 2 inches long, jammed into my leg through my snow pants and through my jeans.
All right, you win. That's
snow pants. I didn't have snow pants.
Snow pants.
Hit an artery.
No, he had a onesie.
Did you have a matching snorkel?
And I had to go to the hospital. I had to pluck out the friggin', stuff like that, but not for I hit my head. They wouldn't know what to do with you.
I wiped out on a skateboard on the street that I grew up on. Mark knows that, the hill from my parents' house down to Lakeview Ave, and hit a rock. Was in running motion, trying to hold my balance, running now, and then I landed on my arm, whacked my head, ended up with an egg like this. And guess what happens when I walk in the house? Can you imagine? What would your dad do?
Yell at you. They were pissed at you.
Fucking screamed at me.
What the hell did you do? You realize you just ruined my day?
So that ended up in the ER, ended up in the hospital for 3 days, had a concussion.
Wow.
Yeah. I got hit in the face with a baseball at a game, just playing catch with somebody before the game or whatever. And I threw the ball and they missed it. And then they just picked it up and threw it back. And I wasn't expecting it. And next thing you know, I look up and people were standing above me. And I went in the game and played the game. They were just like, yeah, you're okay. I'm like, I was just on another planet. But hey, Kevin, you and I talked about this. Let's keep going with the questions. How far did you walk or ride your bike? To go somewhere? Let me take that back. How did you get places? We rode our bike. We had to go to Little League games. We rode our bike or we walked. Like there was no shepherding. Like, so we had this disorganized play, if you will, for us, but there was also, if you needed to get somewhere, that's how you went. Like, I don't remember my parents ever driving me to like a little league game or anything like that. Unless it was raining, I think one time. Like we
I mean, I think
the tracks.
you were, I think, expected to be self-sufficient, make your own fun, find your own way to entertain yourself, get yourself to your own stuff. I mean, the only thing I got driven to was probably hockey because it's too much equipment to put on your bike. And plus it's, 12 degrees in New England in January. But, in the warm weather, you rode your bike or you walked, and that was what was expected. And that was what everybody else did. So it wasn't like it was weird. That's just what you did.
But with hockey too, I just remember you're riding with anybody and everybody.
Right.
Your parents were like, oh, the goalie's mom's going to pick you up.
Right.
This person's going to, you'd ride. I'm like, I can't stand that kid. Well, too bad.
Tough
the mom's
shit.
going to drive you. Yeah. We get in the car and the mom would be smoking cigarettes, windows up. It's like 5
Ripping
degrees
butts.
out. You're just breathing it.
on the winter thread here. We called it in Massachusetts, or we called it mushing. You would, in the winter, you would grab the bumper of a car and you would get towed up the street while it was snowing. I don't know if you guys call it the same thing, but we grew up a few miles apart. But mushing, crazy, grabbing onto it. I don't even think cars have bumpers like that. You could do that anymore.
No.
But we were outside. Our parents had.
That's probably why they don't have those kind of bumpers anymore. Too many kids mushing on the back of these 1974 Buicks.
We used to hold on to the back of our friend's car. We had a Datsun 280Z, and he used to pop the hatch, and we used to hold on inside the back of in the trunk. And he'd be going 40 miles an hour down the icy road. And then the joke would be road.
Watch out
She'd
for
have
the
to start
pavement.
running. Yeah.
We're talking when we were 10, Brian, not driving age. We used to throw snowballs at cars. Did you guys ever do this? Again, unattended.
Absolutely.
Like this is at wintertime, get home before it was dark. Well, the streetlights are probably already on, but we used to just pelt cars with snowballs.
Or small blocks of ice. That's always good.
We used to go for the
always
plow
fun.
guys because they'd have their windows down, their arms sticking out the side.
Yeah, plus screw the plow guys.
I remember getting chased in the woods by the plow guy. Like, talk about
it's
adrenaline
great.
rush.
That's
Awesome.
Keep going. Did you guys? So let's talk about weapons, right? So shooting weapons, making weapons. I felt like we were always sharpening something to a point and trying to kill something. It really wasn't each other, but maybe it was. But like you saw a piece of wood that came up and split like a V, and like, oh my god, that's a great slingshot. I'm going to make a slingshot out of that. Or we shot BB guns in the backyard.
Did you guys have buck knives? Is that a thing? Did you all have a buck knife as a kid? With the little leather belt holster, and you had your buck
think
knife.
You were Davy Crockett.
So you could whittle a stick in an emergency. I don't know what the hell you're supposed to use it for.
I still have I had a Panther, which is like the Walmart version of buck.
Wow. You still have it? Seriously?
I still have it, yes.
You got to put that on the episode of shit you can't get rid of. Why you hold on to a buck knife?
I have a lot of knives. I don't know why, little jackknives and stuff. I think, like I said, I was always sharpening something to a stick. We were always felt like we were hunting, I think. If there was a frog in your path, it went down. Like we used to just
I think
things.
the BB gun was like something that I don't know, whenever we all got one or if you had access to one, you're right, Carl, like you shooting, you'd find bottles on the side of the road, you'd set them up and take them down. You'd go to a pond and pick off a couple of frogs.
Fish.
You'd see how far you could shoot it. Well, maybe you could get a fish. I don't know. But the frogs were usually dumb enough. They were just like sitting on the edge. So depending on how close you could get, you'd take a couple of those out. You're just shooting everything.
Squirrels, birds.
You shooting fish, Kevin?
Other people. Shooting fish in a barrel. Yeah, up at the old Monotony Rocks. We would take the BB gun out, and I think I was telling you guys this. We would trying to shoot the fish, and the woman came by. She said, "Oh my God, think about what you're doing." And I'm like, "Well, is this less painful than a hook in the mouth than a BB in the fin? Well, it's so inhumane." Go about your business, sweetheart. We're 12. We know what we're doing.
Leave me alone,
How did you
Karen.
get this BB gun to the middle of the public space?
I honestly don't recall. I must have put on my bike, my souped-up BMX bike that I spray painted black and did all my own body work
rode
on.
across town with a BB gun. Can you even?
I must have. It's not like my mother gave me Mom, I'm going to shoot fish. Can you give me a ride? I don't think that happened.
We used to in our town. There's a river that leads to Boston Harbor, and the herring used to spawn in this river, and so they would come upstream, and we were like, oh my God! So we'd throw rocks and sticks at them or whatever. Then somebody started catching them, and then that was not enough. So we would take a bat and we put nails in it. And if you saw the end of the nails off with a hacksaw, and you now had a bat with spikes in it, and we would just try to smash as many fish as possible that were swimming by. These poor fish were going to spawn, and we were just trying to massacre as many as possible.
Cock blocking the fish.
It
so
was crazy.
You are single-handedly responsible for the decrease in the herring population in the greater Boston watershed?
Point, yes, it wasn't me.
Hope you're proud of yourself, Sweary.
Yes, it wasn't me, but it was the making of the weapon and the using of this weapon. I think that was just it's just awesome.
But this is what happens when you have unsupervised fun. I mean,
yes.
no parent is going to organize that sort of an activity for you. You got to figure that shit out on your own.
Or if you weren't quite as violent, you would use the magnifying glass and you'd try to burn things that you'd see like walking around. You'd move the magnifying glass. So this could also go back to the fire thing, that you move the magnifying glass until it would become like a laser beam, and it would either incinerate the ant, or you would have that stuff that you would gather there for a fire, and that would start it. So even if your parents didn't give you, although matches were everywhere, but if you didn't have a lighter or matches, you could improvise and use the old magnifying glass to do damage.
How many beetles did you kill, Mark?
Burn them. You'd burn them with the magnifying glass.
Yeah, it works with any magnifying glass. It's just...
There's a magnifier on our iPhones now. We don't need magnifying glasses anymore.
Well, Carla, weren't you saying today that there was somebody you were talking about that had never used a lighter? Some sort of a teenager or... that didn't know how to use, didn't know how it worked, didn't know how it functioned, didn't know how to execute a light on a lighter.
Oh my!
It was mind-boggling. The kid was, I don't know, 11, 12, 13, whatever the hell it was, and we were having a fire, and I handed him the lighter and said, "Do you want to light that?" And there was no gasoline on it; was just a piece of paper to start the fire. And the kid looked at the lighter, was like, didn't know
Baffled.
what to do with it. And his mother's like, "You got to spin the wheels." Like, he's never used a lighter. I'm like, what?
We're doomed.
Had one hand holding it and spinning it with the other hand, and he just could not do it with one hand. Did not understand the concept of a lighter. I'm like, you need to get out more. You need to go to have unsupervised play with fire.
Get out there and make some bad decisions with fire. Yeah.
Did you guys blow up frogs and fish and each other with fireworks?
I mean, you want to talk about a bottle rocket fight or a Roman candle fight that we all had?
Roman
this
candle
was
fight for sure.
around the 4th of July when fireworks became readily available. Well, readily available means you had to take, in my case, you had to take the subway from where we were 6 miles outside of a major city, Boston, to the North End. And Carlo, and you guys might know this. There's the basketball court where the creepy dude would sit and sell you fireworks, and you hand him a bunch of money, tell him what you'd wanted. You go around the corner and come back with Roman candles, bottle rockets, whatever it was, and then you'd get the subway back to home and have your bottle rocket fights.
Everybody
all
knew.
Unsupervised.
Yes, everybody knew. And you could do that and your parents never know you left the house.
Right.
You have to walk to the bus station, take the bus station, then to the train to the North End, which is a couple stops. And then everybody knew that's where everybody bought fireworks. And Roman candle, they were fantastic. Roman candle fights.
Love them.
It was awesome. If anybody listening, we're not talking like we were 8. This is.
Yeah. 12, 13, 14. Yep. Did you guys do that? You guys have that too?
Yeah, we had fights with bottle rockets and Roman candles. But Kevin, would you bring your BB gun on the subway to then bring it to, and to try to roll the fireworks guy and say, "Hey, give me all your fireworks"? I'm trying to think about. So
I had my buck knife with me, Mark. Just so you know.
Easy burn.
Carlo, that would
and my magnifying glass.
But we would walk around with BB guns. Kevin's I don't know how you would get all these fireworks because they were illegal. So now you're cruising around with a backpack or a pocket full of fireworks.
You can't have a brown paper bag. The guy hands you like a brown paper bag and you just have it.
Yep.
Since we're talking about weapons, I remember my dad was a hunter, and he just had a cabinet in the basement, this wooden thing unlocked with all the guns in there. We could have just got whatever we wanted out of there. We didn't, because that's what you did. And I remember my neighbor, his father was a veteran. He had like a Luger. Is that the German, whatever? Yeah. And he'd be like, "Hey, look at the Luger." Like, we had no clue if it was loaded, not loaded, but he brought it home from the war, and we all like passing the gun around. It was nuts.
But didn't you not need gun safes? Because kids were petrified that and this may also swerve into another topic, if you touched your father's guns, you would be beaten to within an inch of your life. Oh, yeah. You knew, there was going to be a coming of age. I don't know, at some point your dad would take you shooting. For me, that never happened. It was a BB gun and a pellet gun. That was as far as I got until we went to Myrtle Beach, and then we shot semi-automatic weapons. But you didn't touch the guns because you would be pummeled, which corporal punishment, Now that's another thing. If you just give your kid a backhand nowadays, they'll call DCF on you. They'll probably file a complaint. They'll maybe threaten to take your child away. I mean, how you choose to discipline your kid, obviously not child abuse, but we all probably got the backhand for any number of things that we did, or they thought we were going to do, they'd still whack us, even if you didn't do it. I'm like, I didn't do it. That was my brother. I didn't do it. It was my brother. Well, you were in the vicinity, and you're closer, so I just hit you. But so then you'd have to figure out when do I make my move, or when I obviously will not do things when the parents are around, because you could just get whacked for doing nothing at all.
Again, don't go in the house, drink the hose water, because you never know what kind of trouble you're getting in if you go inside.
Yeah.
Your favorite pair of jeans, your parents were pissed because you didn't have the array of clothing that you had today.
Right.
It was definitely not like that at all. So just raise your hand. Nobody can see us, but raise your hand if you fell out of a tree.
Broke my collarbone.
Yeah.
Broke your collar. I just remember falling so hard once that one of those landing on the back and and then you're like,
knock your wind out of yourself.
Knock the wind out of you.
Yeah, boy. But we were climbing. If there was, as young boys, don't you feel like if there was something in front of you that needed to be climbed, you climbed it?
It needed to be conquered. You conquered it. Yeah.
Yes, you just did it. The same school playground, the school that I went to, I went back there, and we used to play out there. And we used to play this game against the wall of the school, like we were talking about, and the balls would always end up on the roof. And so my brother and other friends are like, I ain't going up there. I ain't going up there. And I was a peanut. And I'm like, Jesus. So I went at the scale like an 8-foot fence. It was a shape like a U, and the first side was one floor, then it kind of pitched up to the other side, which is the second floor, which were all the balls went up on. I had to stand on top of the fence, pull myself up on the edge of the roof and get over the roof, then run around the whole roof, throw all the balls off. But I couldn't go back the same way because that was too dangerous. So I had to go to a different point, hang off like this alarm bell that was still on the first floor. Imagine I'm 4 feet tall again. I'm hanging down. You had to hang off the bell to get. And how did I know how to do this? Because I saw somebody do it, and you learn through tribal knowledge how to get off the roof because you ask them, how'd you get down? Oh, yeah, Jimmy did that, but he got hurt. So don't do that. You got to go. You hung off the bell, and then you landed in the mulch pit, by the bushes. Then you ran around and you started over again. I told my mother years later, which was only a few years ago, why would you do that? I'm like, just because it was there, Mom.
Because it was there, exactly.
And she wasn't going to buy you another ball that you had launched onto the roof.
Well, no. You got to keep anything else that was up there. It was awesome. So it was definitely a win-win. Right. What else we got?
I got a completely random one. Like we talked about making, we would have to make our own fun. We were camping with our parents, maybe like 3 or 4 families. And we had a rope, and there was a tree, and there was a river, and we made a rope swing. But we weren't smart enough to figure out. So we were kind of like up on the bank of a river, and where we had tied the rope and where we were on the river didn't actually get you to the river. It got you to the beach in front of the river.
Got you close.
So, Brian, you'll get a kick out of this. We tell Keith, my brother, to grab the rope, jump off of the cliff, and see how far out he's going to go in the river. He jumps off the cliff and face plants right in the beach. Never made it to, it must have been like 5 or a 6 foot drop, but there wasn't enough arc for the rope to bring him out over the river. So that didn't go so well. We had to find another launch point. We had to modify the rope, and it all worked out. But if our parents were in the vicinity, or if that had gone worse, I look back on that and think the damage that could have been done was horrible. Because think about the trust of that. You're grabbing onto the rope, and you're going into the river, so you're jumping with all of your force.
Right.
And then at some point you realize, holy shit, I'm not going to make it.
We used to go to the Westford Quarry, jump off the Westford Quarry. That was crazy.
How old were you when you were jumping into a quarry?
I was probably like a freshman in high school. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say teens. There was one on Mammoth Road. There was that other Gagnon's, or there was one near Ray's State Line that there was a quarry, and then there was the one in Westford.
How did you get out? Like, this is the tribal knowledge. People knew how to climb. Like, was it?
Yeah, there were areas.
Lower?
There were some lower areas. Yeah. There was one side that was fairly high. The other side was really high. That one was scary because I remember I jumped out once, and if you didn't jump out far enough, you were close to the edge coming down.
I wouldn't have done that.
It's probably 50 feet, maybe. I don't know.
Wow. Well,
I definitely would not have done that. what were we just talking about before? I'm sorry, I already forgot. How did we get there?
Just stuff that people. Mark just had stuff for those lists. Oh, one of the things I had was sort of, we were talking about you're on your own. Like, I think most of our parents worked. I think, right?
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
If I think back to, I was telling this story the other night to my son actually, and my wife was just shaking her head. But you would put down like the emergency number at school, and if you missed, the way it worked at our high school, you would get attendance taken in homeroom, and if you missed homeroom, they mark you absent for the day. So then, if you don't show up for one of your classes, they don't look for you because you're on the absence list. So I figured this out fairly quickly, and my mom was working, and so they would call the house. There was no answering machine. So the phone would just ring, and they'd try it 2 or 3 times, and then they just give up and move on to the next kid on the list. So by the time I got to like my junior year of high school, I'd figured out like I could just skip homeroom and then pick and choose which classes to go to. So I go to the classes I have at an exam and skip the ones I don't want to be to. And then, by the end of the semester, I think I had like 40 absences because it's not like I missed every class. But then this is the best part of the story. I go and I take a chemistry test, and then I blow off the rest of the day. A week later, the guy goes to hand out the chemistry tests, and I didn't get mine back. And I said, Mr. Cody, actually, it was the chemistry teacher. I said, hey, I didn't get my test back. He said, were you here that day? I said, oh, yeah, no, I remember taking the test. He said, let's see. Let me get the attendance list from that day. Nope, your name's right here. You were out. And I'm like, I remember taking the test. He said, I don't know how that's possible, Mr. Donahue. You weren't here. Your name's right on this list. I said, so what do I do? He said, you can do a makeup test this afternoon, and it's going to be a lot harder. And he just he winked at me like he'd figured it out. But like I literally was skipping homeroom just to get out of all the classes I didn't want to go to. And, in the end, it all works out. But, kids can't do that today. You can't just do that shit and get away with it. Your parents would murder you. Or, you get, well, of course, when I got there's another thing you can't do anymore. I got the report card that said, I had like 40 absences, and I just take a little white out and a pen, cross that out and make it down to like 4. Mom, sign this.
What am I signing? Yeah, just sign it, Mom.
Yeah, they didn't know. They didn't care. Didn't matter. I graduated. Big deal. Shit you can get away with. You just can't anymore.
Yeah, in high school, we used to sneak off like B period and go to McDonald's, which was on the other side of town. I remember one time I was going down the road. It was pretty late, like senior year, and buzzing down the road, and my mom's coming in the other direction, and she sees me, like eye contact. She slams her brakes, pulls over. I'm like, crap. Like I turn around. She's like, what are you doing?
We had to like have potential loss of limb or life to not go to school in our house. You just went all the time. Yeah. And I tried to skip school once, I think. I'll leave school early, and I got busted and got detention. That was like the last time. I was not a rule breaker. It was.
I love knowing where the rules are, so I could just walk right past them.
Maybe it's because I started at 4 and I was emotionally damaged.
But I honestly think like being able to bend some of the rules, but bust them here and there, push them over, push the limits. I think that was something our generation just you figured out.
You get caught,
what you could get away
punished.
with. Yeah. Like, okay, I went too far. I got caught. I got punished. I think that's part of what these kids are. Maybe just don't have the same ability to do. They're just missing it a little bit.
But we've imposed so many rules and restrictions on them. Remember, using the car as examples and all that other stuff. You got your license, you got it in your car. We talked about this in another episode. You drove around. The kids can't do that. Society doesn't let them do that. They will get reported. Somebody will report them, and they will lose their license, which is horrible. Right.
But we would also take the car. Get the beers, or go to where the keg was stashed in the woods at whatever the park was. And then that was, or you gently lift a little bit of a, bottle from your parents' liquor cabinet and, do all that sort of stuff. I don't know that crap. Not that I'm a proponent of alcoholism by any means, but I mean, I just think some of those things like, you got to push the envelope a little bit.
None of us are alcoholics, just to let everybody that's listening know that what Kevin said, we have all managed to get to this point in our lives, and we've refined our tastes. And
I've done my 12 steps. No, I'm all set.
Did anybody also ever wait outside of a liquor store and you'd figure out which person to ask to buy for you?
Yep.
And they'd be like, what do you want, kid? And you'd either have to give them a couple bucks, or sometimes they were cool and they just did straight up buy you whatever you wanted, but you would just hang out. And I don't know how old we must have been, because at some point people started getting fake IDs. So we must have been, 15 when we were still asking people.
Yeah.
Because by the time you get to 16 or 17, you probably had friends that were 18, or at least had a fake ID, because you could just delaminate the Massachusetts state ID, peel the corner back, put in a different number and then try to iron it back down, like with the household iron or maybe a match or something to melt it back together. And then you had a new birth date.
And you knew how to work a lighter, so that wasn't a problem.
Perfect. See, that's what I'm saying.
We've gone from
We're like MacGyver, Kevin.
We've gone from grade school to high school. I remember that one time we had this whole bunch of us where, went down that road and went to a couple different liquor stores. And I was with somebody who we ended up getting the person to buy, and somebody got incredibly shit-faced. And there was hell to pay with all the parents. They had like a big parent meeting. Why was, Susie Q so drunk? It was your fault. My fault? How was it my fault? It was because I was with the guy and we were staked out in that parking lot and bought the booze. I'm like, I got thrown under the bus. I'm like, whatever. It was,
busted.
Nobody's buying for anybody today.
No,
God,
not anymore.
No. Well, they also can all get fake IDs from China. I think my son is now well past a minor, not well past, but he's a couple years past it. And I think he had, I don't know, half a dozen of these things that you could get, like buy one, get 6 free. It was that kind of thing.
I have a couple of questions, and maybe I'll weave these in a different spot. Did you ever play with chemicals? Use chemicals?
Give me a for instance.
I'll give you Roundup.
No.
Mercury from a thermometer.
Absolutely.
Yes. We all.
I still think I have a ball of mercury somewhere in a desk drawer.
How about random solvents? We had something in the shed that I don't know if it had a skull and crossbones on it, but it probably should have. And my father's like, go wash your hands with that. I don't know what we were doing. And I felt something after we never again.
Your hands were clean because it took off 3 layers of skin.
I remember turpentine for some reason.
Yep. Because there was no latex paint. When we were kids, everything was oil-based paint. And like my dad would just dump gas on our hands. Same, it was like turpentine.
Yes.
It would dissolve the paint, and then you just wash
Some of your
hands.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it did. I mean, it probably wasn't
DNA.
good.
How was that
A couple chromosomes.
Like we motor oil. We always had. I felt like we were always doing something like that, and we just had motor oil on us, or we had bike chains and all that other stuff.
In order for there to be oil kicking around, that must have meant that at one point we or our parents used to change the oil in their car, which when was the last time, and Kevin, you're excused from this exercise, that you've ever changed the oil in your car?
Never.
You've never done it in your life?
Why would I do that?
Oh my!
Where the fuck was I putting extra oil that I leaked out of it? No, I was not doing
You
that.
dumped it under
You
the
just kept
shed.
adding oil.
Well, yeah, you dump it in your backyard.
You dumped it down the sewer.
Yes.
You dumped it. The whole neighborhood was
Yes.
dumping it everywhere.
We had to
I was a little more
trash.
responsible than that, sadly. I think than you
threw it in the
knuckleheads.
trash. You did all of that stuff. So I'll end with one thing that we didn't talk about, which I think is universal to this discussion of things Gen X people did. Lawn darts. For those of you who don't know what a lawn dart is, it's a giant spike that looks like a regular dart, but you threw it up in the air. If we were guys, we threw it as hard as we could and as high as we could, and it had a giant spike, and you tried to get it into a target.
There was 2 blues and 2 reds, and the target was this little yellow ring.
Yep.
We used to throw them from the backyard to the front yard and the front yard to the backyard over the house.
How did you not die?
How did my father, not coming out of the basement, take one in the head?
Yeah, right. We put one through the windshield of the car. I remember that. So it let go. Somebody flicked it. I don't think it was me, but it went right into and it put a friggin', just a hole right in it. I'm like, damn it, that's gonna cost some money. Yeah, those things were lethal.
Talk about no liability group in a toy company. That's fine. Yeah, that'll be fine. Just
They
throw
don't
those
make.
things
I mean,
into
they
the
don't
air.
make them
They're
anymore.
just going to toss them a little ways. They're not going to do
Yeah,
anything.
I think enough people died or were seriously wounded that they took those off the market.
Yeah.
The advent of personal injury lawyers ruined all of the fun toys and things that we got to do as kids because throwing a large...
Absolutely.
Weren't they jarts? They would call them lawn jarts. I didn't know that they were darts. They were jarts.
Yeah, jarts.
And you're right.
Yeah.
The front of it had this huge metal cartridge, and it was, maybe, Carlo, back to you had to get a good point on it to make sure that it would stick in your grass. I mean, it didn't have to be like razor sharp, but I remember them being pretty sharp. And you'd set it up where it was like horseshoes. You could set it up wherever, those portable horseshoes.
It's kind of weighted in the front.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
not a
And you
good
grabbed
idea.
it between the fins coming out. There was a little piece that came straight out, and you held onto it like that, and you just released it.
Yeah, I feel like as young men growing up. If you could break it, we broke it. If you could jump off it, you jumped. If we climbed it, we climbed. If you could light it on fire, we lit it on fire.
Yep.
If there was some way to break something, like we were not vandals. I don't know about you guys. We didn't break the law, right? We were not breaking windows in the schools. We were not breaking other people's property intentionally. It was none of that stuff. But if you could you could melt it, you could burn it, you could do whatever. We did it.
I think it's the whole thing. I think you've wound up with a sense of adventure. Like it was, you asked about how did you get around? What'd you do? We used to take our bikes, and the goal, 3 or 4 or 5 neighborhood kids, was to see if we could get intentionally lost. The town I grew up in was fairly big. We only knew our little pocket of it. And so we would ride our bikes in some direction. We weren't really sure where we were going, and see if we get lost. And then that was a successful day. If you got lost, then you had to try to figure out how to get home before you starved to death. And we might be 3 miles from the house, and nobody really knew which way to go. That was part of it. You had this sense of adventure. I don't know if kids have that anymore, or not to the same degree that you just go off and manufacture stupid fun and figure stuff out and get hurt and, rub dirt on it and get back in the game, or just, I don't know. It's a different day.
Magellan, Donahue.
Yeah, we did the same thing. You just went. I don't know how
that was our fun. You would drive on your bike to intentionally get lost and then find your way home. That was a Tuesday.
That's a full day.
That was a day of fun.
And if you were disappointed if you found your way home too fast, then what the hell are we going to do now?
I don't know how these apps work, these Life 360 and stuff, but I'm guessing these kids are probably geofenced by their parents, right? They're like, Susie Q just went out of range. Where is she going? Like, where are they going? Like, you probably can't go anywhere. Like,
well, and I don't know about you. I have friends who have kids that are in their 20s, and they still, he's there. Oh, he got, they still follow him everywhere. I'm like, when we get to the point where my lovely wife wanted to get Life 360 for all of us, and I'm like, I'm not doing that, and I don't think it's good for us to have it. Like, people should have their sense of privacy, their sense of adventure, and not worry about tracking everybody all the time. I mean, I don't think that's healthy, but that's me.
How are you supposed to make mistakes?
Right.
I think that's how we grew up.
Don't you learn from those things? That's the whole point.
Everybody's like, how are you go have sneak that first beer or do whatever with that girl or wherever you were? How are you supposed to do that if everybody knows who you are every minute of every flipping day?
Right. Now you're sneaking a Truly, but I get your point.
All right. Great conversation tonight. These things can never be replicated. I'm going to go buy me some lawn darts online because I'm sure they're going to be worth something if I keep them long enough.
Dodgeball game at Kevin's house this weekend. Let's go.
Oh, there you go.
Just the sound of that red ball. That
play
ping.
None of us could throw a dodgeball like 3
all right,
times
you're right. Bottle rocket fight.
Without bottle rockets, maybe without tearing a rotator cuff. I can't throw a golf ball that you miss hit across the golf course. Never mind chucking that giant red ball.
You don't have to throw a bottle rocket though, or a Roman candle. That you've got the shoulder strength for that, don't you?
No. Yes, I can do that.
There you go. See,
I can launch fire. Our show does have a mantra, and everybody knows how it goes. Just remember that if you are a man and you are having a bad day,
nobody cares.
Peace.